Hey everybody, Erica here from In the Company of Cards. If you're new, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. So I just wanted to come on briefly. I know it's the day before the 4th. I know that today is the weekday holiday. A lot of people have off today. So I won't be here long. I have, my reading glasses that I sometimes wear here, but they're red, and I didn't want to look like over the top patriotic. Since I'm wearing blue and white, so I've got these glasses on instead. Um, so speaking of, I think I want to look at this county fair thing from a couple of angles. Um, One financial, and then the other just, how's it going to go? So we know that it was closed down for a period of time because it's very, very hot. So I'm gonna look at that. I'm gonna look at the grift of it. I'm also going to look at the heat. And I also want to look at the midterms. I just want to give an overview and look at whether the whether they'll be fair or not. I don't know if you saw that orb that just shot down. Um, okay, so let's see. What should I look at first? Oh, and I want to say I'll say it at the beginning and I'll say it again at the end. I won't be here tomorrow, but Sunday I'm going to come on again at 11 a.m. Pacific. So that's 2 p.m. Eastern, and then wherever else you are in the world. I think it's a good time for um, other parts of the world too, because it can be like evening in Europe, for example. But if you come at 11 Pacific, 2 Eastern, I will do what I did last week, which was that I will take your questions for an hour. Um, their personal ones are okay, and political, cultural ones are also okay. Please spread the word. Ask people to subscribe so that they can ask these questions. I'm trying to get the numbers up and also just trying to give us a little bit of relief. So that's why I'm doing this once in a while. So I will be doing it again on Sunday, 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Bring your questions. Please do not put your questions under this video because why would you do that? This will be a live broadcast, so wait till you see that put up and then wait until it opens up to post your questions in the live chat feed. That's where you put your questions. If you put your questions anywhere else, I will not answer them because, I mean, right? So just wait for the live to start, put your questions in, and I will go down the list and answer as many as I can. This is a gift to you. It is not an obligation of mine to do this for you. There is no cost to you for this. If you would like to say thank you, I feel like the best way is to like, hype, share. I appreciate it. Some people give me tips, which I think is very kind, and I appreciate that. But it's not necessary. I really do appreciate it though. But really, just like, share, subscribe, hype. If you do those things, then we can grow as a community. Okay, so I think let's first look at the heat situation currently at this fair. It was closed down for a while, and then it reopened at 5 Eastern. So it should be open, of course, now. I did see people being taken out in on stretchers and in ambulances to cooling centers because, the heat is overwhelming. I also know that you explained this to me. Why is one of the prohibited items at this state fair something that you can't bring in is a reusable water bottle? Why is that? I mean, you're asking people to come out and spend 12 hours in the sweltering heat. It will be sweltering tonight and tomorrow night too. And they can't have a reusable water bottle and with water stations so people can fill their reusable bottle. I did see them giving out water and it looked like it was free. I'm sure if you know who could find a way to charge people for water, he would do that. But they seem to be giving it away for free. So I just want to know, he has said, the felon has said that he will be speaking tomorrow. Uh, I'm sure it will be once the sun is low, has gone lower in the sky. I mean, if he has any sense, for 2 hours. That's the plan. I mean, hopefully he's talking to himself and then nobody's there, but I just want to know how's it going to go? How is his little state fair going to go now that we are down to the wire? We know that the um, scenery, the scenes, the stage settings falling apart. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that, but there were people rehearsing on the big stage and the things started to come down on top of their heads. So, because he did everything on the cheap. And that reminds me that I want to look at this state fair thing from another angle once I've looked at the heat and just how the couple of days is going to go. So we're looking at how tonight will go, how tomorrow will go, and how tomorrow night will go. We know that tomorrow night the fireworks are not meant to start until 11 p.m. and there are tons of them. And we know that it will be increasing the pollution level over the DC area to add to the heat that they're experiencing because they're under that heat dome. So let's just look. So I think I'm going to use the garden. Because if you think about it, the mall is that big expanse, that big green expanse, and then the garden is the card for outdoor events. That's one of the meanings of the garden. So let's look at the garden. We'll hope that that can be our focus card and see what's around it and see how it's going to go. Hopefully, there won't be any fatalities. People have already gotten sick from the heat, but let's see. So, oops, just put that down so you can watch. Okay, we're looking for the garden. Okay, so this stands for the 250th thing that's going on, the state fair or whatever. Um, okay, so we have the child, we have the book, we have the garden that is standing for this big event, we have the woman, and we have the fox. So, you know, the child is the card for something small. This event is a lot smaller, as we already have realized, than it was intended to be. People are just not coming out for lots of reasons. And I don't think the heat is the only reason that people are staying away from it. So that's a good thing. Uh, you know, I also think that this is the card for like a novice, somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. And I mean, when you have the stage set fall on top of people, and it looks like it's made out of paper mache and I mean it's just the ice cream machines melt or whatever the electricity goes out so the ice cream melts. This is done on the cheap by amateurs who didn't know what they were doing. The book is about things that we don't know. They didn't know what they were doing. And that will play into the next thing I want to look at in regard to this thing. Gardens in the middle. The fourth card is the woman, and I can mirror it with the book. Now, I get, I hate to do this. I hate to say this about this card, but remember that this system was created in the late 1700s, early 1800s. And so sometimes the way that you interpret this card will sound very retro and very un-PC. So I just want to acknowledge that up front. But this is like passive energy. Like, they didn't know what they were doing, so they just figure, well, it'll all come out, it'll all come together. It'll be fine. Things will work out. It's the 4th of July. Everybody likes a party. So, I just don't think that they were very stringent in their preparations. But again, we will talk about that in a minute. And then we have this fox card because again, they did it on the cheap. They picked people who didn't know what they were doing instead of the experts. Now, this is the card for expert, and what they thought they were doing is they thought they were being slick. Again, by doing it on the cheap, and we'll talk about the money in a minute, but it's not, this is not complimentary to them. Here we have the garden. This is the event. We have the ring, the bouquet, and the rider. So, the message that people are supposed to take away from this whole thing in advance of it is, um, it's the 4th of July. We always celebrate the 4th of July. This is what we've done year after year after year after year after year. That's the ring. It's the tradition to do that. And you know who, has given the country this gift of this state fair uh, thing. We're supposed to think of it as a gift. This is how we celebrate the 250th. Oh, anyway, again, our fourth card is the woman, and the clarifiers are the lily, the stork, and the dog. I, I know that people will help out the elderly. People will help the elderly. The stork is like positive change. I don't really know what positive change can come from this unless this is just sort of the wishful thinking, because that whole line I can mirror with the book. Let's go to this fifth card, the fox. The clarifiers are the scythe, the young woman, and the clouds. I mean, they really did not employ expertise in doing this. They consciously made the decision, that's the scythe, to not hire experts, but to hire people who kind of, gave it a lick and a promise, and this is why we have stage sets falling on people's heads, and no accounting for the fact that the heat was going to be what it is, and that there's no shade. So it was really sloppy, not carefully thought through at all. This is like, oh, I don't know. What do you think? Mirrored with this beginner card. It's by a bunch of rubes who put it together. This is why, they want to talk about DEI. I'm going to say this. No gay people put this thing together, and no black people put this thing together. But this is what you get when you get rid of those people, and all you have left is, sloppy seconds, incel people and their trad wife companions. Not that there's anything wrong with being a trad wife, I guess. Um, you get bumbling, And, you get accidents waiting to happen. Like, again, people being taken to the hospital with heat stroke. So there will be no saving this thing. It's already a bust. Um, Tomorrow night will be the culmination of the bust. Let's look at how his speech will go, shall we? And then I want to come back to the finances of this thing. Let's look at how the felon's speech will go. So I'm going to use the felon, the older man card for the felon. He has vowed to speak for 2 hours. He'll have a lectern so he can lean, I suppose, but can he stand up and be coherent for 2 hours? I don't think he can sit down and be coherent for 2 hours. You know, can't seem to do it for 5 minutes, but let's just see. Um, how will his speech go and how will it be received? So I'm gonna use him and see what's around him. Okay, here he is. So we have the bouquet, we have the bear, we have the felon, we have the young woman, and we have the house. So, you know, I'm just going to say that, he thinks he's God's gift to us. He thinks this 2 hour speech is a gift to us. That's just his bullying narcissism speaking. He's in the center and lurking around the corner, you know, not anything that will be swept up or put away or ignored is the e-files and the tarnishing that they will do of his White House. He wants us to think that this is a gift. This whole 250th thing is a gift that he's giving to the people, the gift coming from the White House to the people. But let's pull a couple of cards under him and just see if we get anything. We're talking about his speech, remember? Yeah, so he really wants to give this speech to all the people. This is the public, and he wants to be remembered as the president who was president on our 250th birthday. So he thinks he's going to go down in posterity. He'll go down, but not in posterity. And I'm going to pull a couple of cards on the house. So I feel like this is also his presidency, his White House. We have the heart, the ship, and the book. I really think that he is of mixed minds. On the one hand, he's quite, the bully, um, full of just venom and bombast. But he knows that his days are numbered, in the White House and in the world, and he wants to be loved. And he doesn't know how to do that. I mean, I think he will probably, in this speech, veer back and forth between being this aggressive, nasty person that he is, to being sort of maudlin and sentimental and, you know, what he thinks America is and Americana is. He'll veer back and forth, I think, between those. I don't see anything that is telling me that the speech will be truncated or abbreviated at all. So he could stand up there and run his mouth for 2 hours. I mean, I won't be watching, so y'all can let me know. I hope you're not going to be watching either. I mean, I'm sure somebody will let us know whether he makes it through the 2 hours, but he'll just go on for 2 hours. And again, I think he'll veer between being the tough guy bully and then being maudlin and sentimental about what it means to be American. So, whatever. But I do want to say, look at something else related to this whole event. So there were two entities set up to arrange this celebration of our 250th anniversary. Now, I'm old enough to remember 1976, and I was in Boston at the time, so the tall ships and it was a really great celebration. I mean, it really was great. Here we are 50 years later. God, to think you've been alive a whole half century longer than that. I mean, I was grown back then, and now I'm really grown, if you get my drift. But this time, there were two entities set up. There was, first of all, the first one is called America 250. And that was a nonpartisan, um, chartered body, congressionally chartered, right? Set up and approved by Congress to plan our 250th celebration. And people from all over the country donated money from both sides of the aisle and people not even on the aisle, because this is a big thing, 250th anniversary. The felon decided that he would set up his own entity. Remember, the original one's called America 250. He set one up called Freedom 250. And then when people wanted to contribute, they would contribute to the one, but they would be siphoned to the other one. You see what I'm saying? In other words, like, let's say you want to use your credit card and donate whatever, and your intention is to donate to the original one, the one for all Americans, so that we could have a thing like we had back in 1976. Well, your electronically your donation was siphoned to his Freedom 250. He's allegedly allegedly money was siphoned off from the congressionally approved one to the felons. Now, we all know that regardless of how much money was in the felons' coffers, and of course, those coffers were swelled because I just explained to you how that happened, you know where the money went. It went in his pocket and his people's pockets. And that's why we have scenery falling down on performers' heads. That's why there's no, I don't know, canopies or something. That's why the food costs an arm and a leg. That's why they're charging for water. That's why there are probably insufficient bathrooms. That's why when you go to a particular state's exhibit, there's nothing there except a folding table and some folding chairs. I mean, have they not been to Epcot? I'm just saying. You know how Epcot has the different countries and you can visit this is not that. I mean, they could have done something like that for each state. Or they could have said, forget the National Mall, it's too hot. How about we give some of that money to each state, and each state can do their own version of a state fair? Because states know how to do this very well. I know it's hokey and very kind of, seems like old-fashioned, but it is a very American thing. They can be very fun. Why didn't they do that? It's because that money was siphoned. All you need to know is The original one was America 250. And so to confuse people, he created Freedom 250. You thought you were donating to the one, you were ending up donating to the other, but regardless, your money did not go for this celebration. So what I want to know is, will will justice be done around that? In other words, God willing and the creek don't rise, as my mother would have said, will somebody be held to account for that? And I'm going to use the fox in the middle because that's really shady business. For this particular shady business, will someone be held to account? Not tomorrow and not the next day. So don't come asking me when. Um, we know it won't be anytime during this administration. But will someone be held to account for this? I mean, it's just criminal. You're only 250 once, right? Okay, so let's see. And who knows whether we're going to make it to, 251. But anyway, what did I say I was looking for? Oh, the fox. Hmm. Will this uh, nefarious act of bait and switch and theft will it come to light in a big way, and will there be some consequences around it? Okay. So we have Clover, we have the moon, we have the fox, we have the felon, and we have the ring. You know, I think that they saw it as a fast way to get over, to make money, and to do things on the cheap. Remember, this is one of the happiness cards, but one of the hallmarks of this card is that it's quick, it's ephemeral, it's doing it on the cheap. That's how they've done things. I think that this will land at his door, and he will be known for having played fast and loose one more time and in this other way with the people's money. I suspect so. Um, you know, Played fast and loose and dangerously, really, with a promise that was made to the American public, which was this money will go towards celebrating in the style in which it should be celebrated our 250th birthday. So here in the center we have the fox, and this is the just the shadiness of the whole thing. And we have the mice, the tower, and the house. And yes, I think that the people responsible for this will be, I think they're anxious. I think they're worried. This is the card for the mice. And I do think, as my mother again would say, in the fullness of time, um, this administration will be held to account by a court, for stealing money. I mean, in all the ways, but in this particular way. People gave their hard-earned money to this fund, and then it got siphoned to the other fund. And then we have this cheap plaster of Paris, um, whatever. Here he is now. When he is held to account, because I think he and his administration will, what's he going to say? Oh, I didn't know anything about it. What are you talking about? I had no idea. I wasn't in charge of that. And anyway, I'm the president. I can do whatever I want. That's going to be his response when he is held to account for this, because he will be. Fifth card is our ring, which was the promise that was made to us that we were going to have this great celebration that we would all be proud of. Um, we have the mountain, crossroads, and the letter. Here's what I think. The promise was not kept, was blocked because they went a different way. And I think that the courts will adjudicate it that way. They're going to be like, where's the money? Where's the money? We have the receipts where people thought that they were donating to one thing. How did their money end up in the other thing? And if their money did end up wherever it ended up, why was the stage falling down? Why was there, why were there folding tables and chairs and that was the exhibit? Like in many of the booths, that's all you saw. Why was that? I do think that they will have to answer for this. Again, hopefully we'll live long enough to see it. Uh, which brings me to something else. Um, well, two things. Speaking of live long enough to see it, I want to look at what's his name? Mitch McConnell. We know that in the middle of June, he was found unconscious. An ambulance was called to his house. He had to be resuscitated. Now, let me just say, if you need to be resuscitated, what does that mean? That means that you were in need of resuscitation, let me just say. Who knows how long he was in that state before he was found, correct? And we have heard nothing since, except that he's in the hospital. Where? The morgue? So I just want to know how are you, Mitch? Uh, again, there's been that little discussion of it in the past few days. I think I looked at it this the other day, and we haven't been, I mean, nobody's come out and said, oh, this is what happened, or this is where he is, or this is the prognosis, or this is the plan. We haven't heard anything. So I just want to know, um, is he in the land of the living? Is he on life support? What's going on, Mitch? All right. He's an old man. Let's use the old man card. This time it's for McConnell. This will be quick, and then I will look at the big question that I want to address. Okay, here he is. This is Mitch McConnell this time. Mhm. Okay. Coffin, woman, man, star, clouds. I think he is the fancy word for it. Here's the SAT word of the day. Moribund. Moribund. Moribund, meaning due to be measured for a box. We are waiting on, um, I feel like the wife. I think we're waiting on the wife because I think he's on life support. And, you know, they're not going to take him off life support until she says, okay, take him off life support. He's in the center. His future, he won't be back. He won't be back in the Senate. I think he's on life support. That's what I think. What is his wife's name? I know her last name is Cho, but anyway, she will be the one to make the decision, and I guess everybody's being, deferential and giving her the time that she needs. Meanwhile, who's doing the people's business in the Senate? I'm just saying. Okay, the big question of the hour, and I think it's a good one to look at on this 4th of July Eve, and we have, I told you I have a countdown calendar on my phone. We have 122 days until the midterm elections. And we know as of today, we discovered that there is a pretty sophisticated, organized plan to disrupt the midterms in some way. We know that Bill Pulte, that guy who's just been elected, um, he not elected, appointed. He's good. He's not good at a lot of things. He's good at that. He's good at finding ways to circumvent rules. So he's hard at work. We know Russell Vogt is hard at work. We know Steve Bannon, who loves nothing more than a good. Uh, he's all about anarchy. He loves a good anarchy plot. Are planning this. And we know that whatever they do will be illegal. But what we also know is that's consolation, right? That it's illegal. But we also have seen that the courts lag behind government. So we've seen it with the felon, right? How many things has he done that are illegal, but he does them anyway and worries about the consequences later on and then appeals? So I just want to cut to the chase and ask, and this will be the first of many times, I suspect, that I ask the question. I want to know, will these midterms be conducted fairly? Will these midterms be fairly conducted? So I'm gonna just bridge shuffle my cards for a second. I don't like to do that, but I want them really shuffled. So I'm going to use the letter because that will stand for votes. And I want to, and I want to remind us that, including myself, I want to remind us all that energy is mutable. Things can change. I'm showing you what things look like in the moment. If we like what we see, that's great. That we need to make sure that that is the case. If we don't like what we see, then we need to change it, right? Um, and again, people ask, well, what can I do? Support poll workers. Be sure that you are yourself um, registered to vote. If there are people around you who have trouble getting to polling places, help them. Become a poll worker. Be sure you vote. You know, if anybody in my vicinity talks about, well, my vote won't count, it's just one vote, don't talk to me because yeah, I'm not the one for that. Vote. So I'm stalling a little bit because I'm worried. I mean, there is a concerted effort. This will not be some little fly by night, you know, attempt. I think it will be organized. So, will the midterms in the end be fairly conducted? We're going to use the letter, and that will stand for the vote. Okay, so this stands for the vote. Okay, so we have the moon, and we have the stork, the letter, the fox, and the clouds. So if you've been with me long enough, you can tell where we're going here. I would love for these cards to have been in different order than they're in. So, we hope that we can create a more perfect union. This is what a lot of us talk about a lot, a more perfect union, you know, improvement, positive change. We want to, I'm gonna have to sneeze in a second, or not. We want to be able to turn the page. That's what we want through our vote in the electoral process. But in fact, yes, nefarious deeds will be done. There will be attempts to circumvent, steal, eliminate, avoid, delay, postpone, cancel the midterms. That will happen. Um, let's ask, what is our right action in the 120, what did I tell you? 123 days that are left. How many days is it? Because you want to know. In the 122 days that remain, what is right action in those 122 days that we can take to forestall this coup, and to um, ensure a fair electoral process? What can we do? And I think what I'll do is I'll let Spirit pick all the cards because this is above my pay grade. Interesting cards. So we have the book and the mice, the ship, the fox, and the man. I kind of like the energy of this answer, which is that, how little kids, and I have a grandson, he's not quite there yet, but there will come a time when he will think that he's invisible because he hides his eyes. And I think the first suggestion or the first bit of guidance that we're being given is we can't act like we don't know what's going on. And we can't act like la, 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 everything's going to be fine. And when I say we, I also am including the Democratic Party machine. They need to stop with the infighting, get on the same page, and come up with first of all, a platform, not just what they're against that the felon and his people are doing, but what are you for? Don't make this noise about, communism and socialism and how bad these new young people are, because these new young people are the wave of the future. So, to what degree can you get on board with them? We have to not be like, just assume that, for example, Black people are going to just vote a certain way because they've always voted a certain way and they always come in the clutch and save the day. Well, we're not, as to quote Jasmine Crockett, we're not going to be the Democratic Party's doormat, which is not to say we're voting Republican, but I'm not from the show me state, but show me. Democratic Party has to show us that they value our vote. And, you know, we need to not be, I think it's very interesting to have the mice here because, the mice eat away at the card before. Well, we need to eat away at this kind of la 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 attitude that everything's going to be fine in the midterms. People need to be educated, informed, and aware. For example, I know that a lot of these channels, that talk about politics and certainly political divination, which of course is what I do, have experienced a downturn in viewership. And I totally get why. First of all, it's summertime, the weather's nice, people are doing other stuff, and people have reached a saturation point. But it's not, it will be inexcusable to explain to your grandchildren that you tuned out and you turned off because it was just too much. And that's why we're living under a dictatorship. You don't want to be that person. You don't want to be that grandparent who has to explain that. So we need to erode, um, you know, uh, what? Apathy, erode ignorance, and really bring people to the table and to the conversation, to the discussion, and we need to be engaged. There are things that you can do. You can help in a local campaign, right? I mean, you can make phone calls, you can knock on doors. There's lots of things that you can do to help in this cycle. And this cycle, I mean, it's already gearing up. But if you need a little break, okay, take the summer and then hit the ground running come the fall. Because this needs this attitude of just, oh, it's just one vote. I won't make a difference. We have to eradicate that. If we can work hard on that, then we can move forward and be on not just on the lookout for, but on the attack against those who would subvert democracy. We can't just wait for something to happen, right? We have to be proactive. And I think that's what this is the nefarious bad deed doing. But this guy, he's like, I saw you coming and I got something for you. That's how we have to be, and that's how the Democrats have to be. And again, I think that the old school establishment Democrats need to get with the program or move out the way because this is what's coming. These are young people who have experienced too much and lost too much relative to their parents and how life was for them to be satisfied with the status quo. So, will there be nefarious bad deed doing? Yes. Um, do we need to be aware of that, not act like it's not going to happen? Trust, do you remember how after the election in November, uh, how many months people spent uh, just sure that the finding would be overturned and that Harris would come to the rescue? Do you remember that? You remember how many channels would say that was going to happen? they saw it in a dream, or, it came to them in a vision, or the cards told them that Kamala was going to, everything was going to be overturned and Kamala was going to save the day. That's called magical thinking, and we could ill afford it then, and we can ill afford it even more now. We can afford it even less now. So, eradication of ignorance, eradication of apathy, eradication of I'm just one person, what can I do? We need to eradicate that attitude. You know, be assertive and aggressive in protecting our elections from those who would, you know, turn us into serfs and slaves. This is the 4th of July, for God's sake. Well, tomorrow is, um, you know, take a nap and then get back up and get back in the fight because you will be needed. All right. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful 4th, and don't watch you know who on the television. I hope he does not have a wonderful 4th. Sorry, but that's what I hope. I hope the heat is just unrelenting for him. Uh, and I will be here Sunday at 11 Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and I will have my cards and I will answer your questions for an hour just so that we can, get ourselves off on the right foot for the week to come. All right, everybody, take care. See you Sunday.